All right, welcome along to the RT Soccer World Cup podcast on this very chilly December afternoon, and probably the first and last time on a World Cup podcast that I ever use those phrases, chilly December and probably afternoon as well. But anyway, to warm me up, I'm joined by Ed Leahy of RT Sport Online and also former Ireland striker Kevin Doyle. Obviously, we're coming to the end game of this World Cup, lads, and it's Ed, I suppose, in terms of the tournament, what we've been left with two very intriguing semi-finals. Obviously, the first one that we're going to talk about is going to be Argentina against Croatia, 7:00, RT2, RT player, and then the following day it is going to be France and Morocco. And there's definitely shades, Ed, of the '02 World Cup in terms of two, and maybe to a lesser extent Croatia, but two unexpected semi-finalists.
Yeah, it's certainly not the four teams we were expecting for or hoping for, but you have to say certainly on the part of Morocco, they've probably entertained us the most in that sense, in terms of what they brought to the World Cup and the shocks that they've caused. But the fact of the matter, you're always going to be there with some of the big boys are always going to be there, and we've still got Messi, and we still have the reigning champions France. So you've got that mixture. And surprisingly, then Croatia have just got themselves to the last four as well somehow, and that's a remarkable achievement as well.
Yeah, and Kevin, what have you made of and this is a recurring question I kind of ask at the end of each round, but what have you made of the quality of the football? Obviously, the people were maybe fixated on the idea of a World Cup in December and players being match fit or not, and compared to when they're tired in the summer. But in terms of the pace of the game and how it's been played over the first few rounds, what have you made of it?
I've had no problem with actually the time of it. It didn't bother me that much. I thought it might lead to a better World Cup. Quality of football, if you're into defending, the quality has been really good at times. Morocco, obviously. It depends what you're into. They've been just, like when you see a team with 10-15% possession and you think, right, their goalie must have been man of the match in that Spanish game. He must have been man of the match in the Portuguese game. And it wasn't. It was just really good defending. Their goalie, Bono, the Morocco goalie, didn't have a save to make in the Spanish game. It was unbelievable. They hit the side net in the first half. And in the second half, the only save he made was from a shot come cross. That wasn't even a shot. It was just meant to be a cross. Save. That was it. Unreal discipline and defensive solidity in both games. Portugal had a few more chances against them, in fairness, but still nothing too clear cut. So from that side of it, there's been shocks. I think it's been a good World Cup. I've enjoyed it from the football point of view. Atmosphere has been great at some of the games, even in some of the quarterfinals. You're expecting more noise and whatever, and it's understandable. I suppose it's in Qatar. Not the easiest place for everyone to get to and to travel to, and not a footballing country with their own fans, I suppose, going to fill stadiums and make noise. So that's, I suppose, has been the one thing that you'd say could have been better. But football, good games, bad games, like every tournament. Shocks. What was the last shock? Like Costa Rica, maybe? What year was that when they got to us?
That was 2014.
2014. I know we're saying Croatia is a shock, but they were in the last final, weren't they? So it's consistency. It's not a shock, really. We're surprised, I suppose, but they're probably not surprised. They probably view themselves, and rightly so, as it turns out, as contenders.
Yeah. What have you made of the refereeing as well? And I'm asking this because up to the last 16, I think there was a general sense that the standard of refereeing had been pretty good. But then obviously the English were not too happy with Sampaio in their game against France with a couple of decisions. There was Messi and Emiliano Martinez, and the Dutch contingent as well were both giving out about the way Leahy managed their quarterfinal. And then probably most bizarrely of all was Pepe and Bruno Fernandes of Portugal complaining about an Argentinian referee, refereeing their game against Morocco. And generally, I think the thing with that game, actually, it seems that was probably the one where there was the least controversy in terms of decisions.
No controversy. I was working on that game for RT, and we didn't think anything of it. There was nothing. Listen, Portugal, I know they're after the fact and they're moaning and they're just, I suppose, trying to deflect from their poor performance. I think they felt like they just had to turn up. They were playing Morocco and now they're going to be in a semi-final. I think they're just the shell shocked and they're trying to blame someone. The ref, that was the best refereeing of any of those games you listed out. There was nothing to talk about. There was no controversial decisions. They had there was no close VAR calls. There was nothing that the ref could really make a decision on. You couldn't say they were turned down for anything vital. So I don't know what his issue is there. And why would an Argentinian ref be biased against them? You know, it's Morocco v Portugal. You know, you couldn't ask for a ref from further away, to be honest with you. To have the least opinion on either team or wanting to go through, I'd imagine. You know, the other games, wasn't brilliant in the England game, but I didn't think he was brilliant for either side. The Dutch game, again, you know, poor decisions for both sides. It's always the team that gets beat, you know, goes out and blames the ref. Either team, if it had been the other way around, France he did been given out, but the ref giving the penalty for the VAR or Harry Kane's penalty that was missed. I mean, they'd have been moaning just as much as England were. So I think it's just the losing teams, you know, they're trying to deflect a little bit and they're frustrated and they're trying to come out with anything to take from them not doing their job.
Yeah, for sure. But obviously, first semi-final we're going to be talking about is Argentina against Croatia, 7:00 RT2, RT Player. Now, these are two teams that met at the last World Cup, and if we recall that, Ed, it was very comprehensive in regards, in the sense of Croatia winning quite easily against what was a very poor Argentinian team.
Yeah. I don't know what your opinion has been on Argentina, but I don't think they've played well really in any game. They've been effective. They've got results, but it's been really ugly. I did their first game against Saudi Arabia. It was, you know, they got beat, obviously. They played well, actually, for about half an hour in the first half, and they were unlucky. A couple of offside decisions were really, really borderline, you know. But then after that, since then, they haven't really played any free-flowing type of football. You know, my image of them is Acuna. Is it Acuna, the left-sided left back?
The left back, who's suspended for this semi-final.
Is he okay? Yeah, he's just driving me mental. He's just, you know, he just goes around kicking everyone. He's a very good defender. He's a defensive but they have no width. Everything is wedged down the middle to Messi. Nothing. Di Maria a little bit, but he didn't play. He was injured for a couple of games, and he's been, you know, he's not the Di Maria of old, I suppose. He hasn't been for a long time anyway. But it just feels like they try to wedge everything through the middle, no width, and they're just filthing their way through the tournament. But it's effective, you know, and that's why, you know, you sort of have a feeling that Argentina are just going to filth their way to a win, you know, winning the World Cup. I don't like to write off Croatia because they're very, very good and they've been written off in a few games so far. It'll be really, really close. I just have that feeling that Argentina are just playing ugly, and they've got Messi with a little bit, relying on him for a little bit of brilliance to open up the team.
Yeah, and I suppose, Ed, in terms of as Kevin said there, I mean, if Argentina are going to go through the middle and don't have a particular pace or not blistering pace in the team, you could say the same about Croatia as well. So we're going to be looking at a real chess match here, especially, and everything happening sort of in the middle of the field.
Yeah, well, the two teams, they're not a million miles apart from each other, are they, in terms of style? Both hardworking and compact and resilient. But I suppose Argentina have that little bit more class in the team, and you could see they were more likely to create chances. As I said, even back in the Saudi Arabia game, back in the first game, they were creating chances and they were looking a bit livelier in attack. I was disappointed with Croatia in that final third during the week. They were really relying on that midfield three, Kovacic, Brozovic, and Modric, who really held it together. I thought for them. But they also had then the likes of Juranovic bombing up the wing, and I thought they actually played better when Petkovic came on. I thought he looked a bit more creative up in that final third. Argentina, I've enjoyed watching them because it's sort of exactly what you expect from Argentina, and I think the last 10 minutes of the Dutch game was probably my favourite 10 minutes of the whole tournament. It was just that 2-0 scenario, and then the goal, and then the free kick, and it was the first time I've jumped off the couch in years watching football, I think, and it just really got me going. And I thought fair play to them. I thought they really stood up in extra time, and they probably deserved to win it over the 120 minutes, and you know they got the reward and in the penalties. But I think Messi as well. We're starting to see him influence games a bit more, and maybe it's because it's that bit more prestige, and maybe playing against the better opponents and teams who are going to win games, it gives him a bit more space in attack. And I think you'd like to hope that he will he would be the difference in this one. If we want to get that dream final, I suppose.
Yeah, and what Ed said there, Kevin, about Argentina just looking slightly better in attack during the knockout stages there. The one thing that we have noticed, though, they go 2-0 up against Australia, and the Aussies come very close to equalising, and then in the obviously against the Dutch as well, they're 2-0 up, appear to be coasting into the semi-finals, and then obviously they can't deal with two very tall strikers being brought on.
Yeah.
Would you have concerns about their game management as a result, and also their emotional balance as well, because it got very fractious at the end, a lot of stupid fouls and things being given away?
Yeah, and as well, they were 1-0 up against Saudi Arabia and absolutely cruising, and looked like they were going to, score a hatful of goals there for a few minutes in that game and end up losing. So there's obviously something there. You'd hope they've learned their lesson. In fairness with the Dutch one, that was like, they just bring on a 6'6", all tactics out window and hit the big man. It's great to see. It's great to see Dutch football going from their total football, everyone trying to copy, all the youth systems trying to copy Dutch football, and when it comes down to it, they revert to Ireland and go for the big man and hit him. So there's a place still for that in football. Hard to mark that as well. Fairness to Argentina, hard to deal with that. They wouldn't have to deal with something like that for a while. I'm interested in Argentina because Martinez, he's so good, and he's had a poor World Cup and he looks devoid of confidence, but he took that pressure penalty, to win it for them. A really, really good penalty. So that could spark him a bit into life. I know he mightn't start. Alvarez has been sharp. He scored a goal or two as well. So they have quality there, and the two of them are quick as well. Just feels like they haven't got the best out of either of them, particularly Martinez. But maybe that'll, that goal, that big pressure relief, getting them to a semi-final, might get him going. Croatia, like, they're just, you think they're relying on Modric, but he just keeps going. He's like that. The last World Cup was the same thing. He's age, and he's going to get, he won't be able to keep it going all the way to the final. And it doesn't seem to bother them. They just get 120 minutes again, and they're just still there, still going. Still, you didn't even take him off, I think, in the quarterfinal. They took him off in the last 16. I don't think they took him off in 120 minutes. So really tough one to call. Again, you say Argentina, if they go up in the game, you write off Croatia. I just feel, you don't have a gut feeling with these things. When it gets to this stage of tournament, when two teams are fairly evenly matched, there's just that, I don't know, romantic thing, or Messi getting to a World Cup final, or winning a World Cup. I just feel it's sort of that meant to be thing with Argentina.
Yeah, and obviously when we talk about Morocco a little bit later on, they obviously defend as a team. I know there's a lot of folks on the back four, but on the Croatian side, what have you made of Gvardiol? I mean, at the back with Lovren, who was a bit of a, someone who often was criticised when he was at Liverpool, but he's had a good World Cup. But Gvardiol, who's younger and expected to move on to bigger clubs in the future, he's been outstanding. Yeah,
there's a few in the tournament who you sort of surprise. You have to have a squad, I suppose. There's no point in going in with a team of 11 and hoping to get to a World Cup final, because so easily get suspended, so easily get injured, and they're able to bring someone in and slip into a back four like Morocco. Morocco had to make 2 changes to their back four tonight, and that's why I thought they wouldn't get through against Portugal. And their back four is so strong, we could take 2 people out, and they won't be able to. You won't be. In the end, actually, the back 3 was changed quarters way during the game, and it didn't seem to affect them, and it hasn't affected Croatia either.
Yeah, and Ed, I suppose Croatia's track record as well, I think it has to be said. I mean, for a country of whatever it is, up to 4 million people, it's been said many times. I think because our population isn't too far from it, we're often sort of compared to the likes of themselves. And I mean, they've only missed 1 World Cup since they made their debut in 1998, 3 World Cup semi-finals, got to the final the last time, bronze medal in 1998. And yet, I think trying to find an explanation as to why they are the way they are, like I was reading Slaven Bilic's piece in The Athletic, and I'm none the wiser as to why Croatia is such a great team. He gave some kind of explanations. It's sort of like, in terms of development, do enough but not too much, and it's kind of hard to explain, but it is a remarkable story nonetheless.
Oh, it is. But like, obviously it's an emerging nation, Croatia, but like the whole Yugoslavia background, and it's very evident in that region. The football is just huge. The club scene is huge throughout Serbia, throughout Croatia. So it's no surprise they're there in that sense, because they have that culture of playing football. And what do they have? They don't have a GAA. They don't have a IRFU to compete. Well, I suppose they've got their basketball and their indoor sports. The handball is big, but generally speaking, football is the national sport. So, look, they're there because that's what success brings. It brings people want to play football. Can you imagine, like, this current team would have grown up on the Bobans and the Sukars from '98? So that's what legacy does for football clubs, and it's what happens in all the big football nations. And we have little spurts of that here, but hopefully it's something that will develop a bit better.
Yeah, I think what Bilic sort of was trying his point in terms of, albeit he didn't really explain why, and obviously he wants to keep the secret there as to why Croatia are good, but it was the idea that they're sort of like a middle income economy. They have enough infrastructure, just enough infrastructure to actually develop players, but not too much. And he was kind of contrasting it with Germany, where there's a lot of technology being used there in terms of player development, and for Croatia feels a little bit more real in terms of the way they develop players. But again, I think there's an idea of trying to keep the secret at home. But
so just on that note, Ralph, they're also a very patriotic country, and they're a type of team who will perform better than the sum of their parts. They have that national passion that isn't too evident in too many countries. Obviously, we've seen it in our own team for years now, but if you look throughout the World Cups, there's always teams who don't perform because they don't seem to have. England, probably most notably over the years, never had that real togetherness that they have. When you see the teams like Morocco and Croatia in this one, it's that team spirit is certainly getting them giving them a certain advantage in certain games.
Yeah, and certainly, a lot of their players sort of play from under 10s together into the Dinamo Zagreb Hajduk Split thing, I think was the other point that was being made. So there's a unity there, and he says they're a better team than Argentina, but he means obviously in terms of unity. Then on a final point in regards to this semi-final, Kevin, I suppose we've talked a bit about Messi, but in terms of the positions he's going to pick up, there's not going to be a lot of space in the center of the pitch. So how is he? Where do you expect him to pop up in that game? Because obviously he's very smart. He walks around a lot, which people criticize him for, but that walking around is actually just looking for spaces. But where are those spaces going to pop up?
He walks around it, but that's no different to his whole career. You watch him at Barca when he was at his best. The amount of times I'd look at him and go, geez, I'd love to be just walking around a pitch like that and having that energy when you get the ball. But listen, he's able to do something when he does get the ball. He's given that free ball. That's the thing, because they're so compact, Argentina, they're so wedged and everything through the middle. I suppose they're wedged and everything through the middle. They don't have wedge, but then they've got Messi in there. In the middle, they want to give him the ball. But it's been a few games now, like when Saudi Arabia crowded out the middle, he went really quiet. When the game is open and there's loads of space, like good players want space. It's what you want in football. How do you find space? How do you get it? He hasn't got it. He still managed. What was that through ball he played, like, and it was so, there was still 2 or 3 around him, beats a man, plays that through ball for the goal. I can't remember who scored it for Argentina in the last game. Like, he doesn't need a whole lot of space. He's able to make his own space. He's able to dribble past players. So I suppose he's just used to it. He spent his whole career where there's, sort of like Mbappe in the last few games, he's been doubled up on, he's been tripled up on, and he's managed to find a way. And they have quality. Enough quality, I think, around them. That's the problem when you're playing a really good team and they've got good players. You pick one out to double up on, and someone else gets space then because of that. You'd wonder whether, do they have enough quality when it gets to this stage that they can not sacrifice Messi, but take a few people away. Are Alvarez going to step up? Is Di Maria going to step up? Someone else needs to step up to the plate. Sometimes it seems to be everything on, will Messi score, relying on Messi, looking at Messi, passing to Messi. It should make it easier for other people in that case. You watch him every time he gets the ball. Same with Mbappe. I think the first game I was watching Australia, and every time he got the ball, 2 players out to him, another dragged out to him. The same with England. England actually kept him quiet, but then someone else steps up and scores. So, that was the whole thing. I know I'm getting off topic here, but in England, the England game is how was Kyle Walker on the deal with Mbappe, and he did deal with Mbappe. Mbappe was very quiet for the game, but it's when you have good players around, it's not the one lad. You focus on one person, someone else is going to pop up.
Yeah, we'll touch on the French and Morocco very shortly. But first, before that, obviously, Argentina beat the Netherlands, who were going to be playing in the Euro 2024 qualifiers next September, and then the second game a couple of months after that. Kevin, like, what's your take on the Dutch, having seen them across this tournament? Are you as daunted watching them in the World Cup as maybe you would have been on paper when the draw came out?
Yeah, it's what I expected. You know, they got to a quarter-final. They knocked out penalties. They're a good team, good players. I don't know, is Louis van Gaal going to be there?
Ronald Koeman's taking the job now.
Is he? Yeah, I didn't hear that. So yeah, you know, new manager. He's a good manager, Ronald Koeman, as well. So you'd nearly prefer Louis van Gaal to still be in charge. You know, a new manager gets players on their toes. Sometimes you can have that World Cup hangover. That's what we're hoping for with Ireland playing France in March. That, listen, you get to a World Cup final now, a few players might retire, and it takes them 6 months to get going again. You'd hope for the same with the Dutch, but when they've got a new manager, that to me gets everyone on their toes again. You know, so that'd be my worry for us against them. But like, I go like, take inspiration from people like Morocco, you know, who aren't brilliant. You know, you go through the list of players and you go through a list of Ireland players, and you know, much for muchness in all of them. So just because we mightn't have the players, you know, you need to get more than the sum of their parts. I don't think we've managed to get more than the sum of the parts of the Ireland players now in a good few years. So that's what Stephen Kenny has to do. How does he get more from the players? Whether it's, you know, have 20% possession and be good on the counter attack. You know, you don't have to boot the ball for anything. I'm not saying, you know, Morocco don't boot the ball. They're really solid defensive and really good on a counter attack. You know, find a way to beat the bigger teams. There's no point going out and playing the Dutch or the French like they play, you know, go, oh, we're lovely, yeah, we passed out, and yeah, we had a nice bit of possession, they were just better than us. We have to make it awful and you know, make it horrible for them while still playing a bit of football and being clever, you know, and finding a way to win a game. And that, as I said, that doesn't mean, you know, playing like we did near the end of Trapattoni's era or the end of Martin O'Neill's era, when we went very direct and it was, you know, not nice to watch near the end of both those reigns. We can still play football, but just finding a way to be horrible, be defensively strong, not concede silly set piece goals like we have recently. You know, we don't have to play it from the back with the keeper every single time we get the ball. We can mix up a bit more and somehow get the players inspired to get a result, because that's, you know, that's what the manager has to do to keep his job. You know, there's no point in saying I've developed Irish football and we're playing lovely now. We're still getting beat, but we're playing lovely. You know, you have to win games as well on top of all that. So, yeah, there's a way. It can be done. It's not impossible, as teams have shown through history and are shown again in this World Cup.
Yeah, certainly. And Ed, obviously, it's not just the Dutch. We have what are the favourites for this World Cup up against who are playing Morocco tomorrow as well, also in our qualifying group. So it doesn't get easier on that front.
No, and you know, like Kevin said, you know, you'd hope to catch France on the hop a little bit, but I think I'd like to hope that Stephen Kenny's learning from watching this French team and how to play against them, because, you know, over the last couple of years, he's sort of settled on the back three, and, you know, in my opinion, I think you need to almost go with a flat back four against this French team. Otherwise, you're just basically turning yourselves into a back five. And if that's what it takes, you know, if he's happy with sort of playing a back five against France, all well and good. But in that case, we're going to be backs to the wall. You know, I think this France team are very good, and I'd be more inclined to look at the Dutch game as a team we could probably work something out a bit better, because they're a little bit slower. And one of the interesting facts I've been noticing in the World Cup so far is the time it takes for teams to get the possession back. And I'd love to see what the stats are for Ireland, because that's where the Irish, old school Irish, put them under pressure scenario sort of worked really well, you know, because it allowed, even if we weren't using the ball too well, it allowed us to get the ball back a little bit quicker. And I think that can be a bit of a downfall with the current team. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the stats on that and hopefully be improved on.
Yeah, and Kevin, are you convinced by France? They obviously had their first real test on paper in the quarterfinal against England, and I think probably fair to say England had the better of the game in certain periods of it. What did you make of them?
I think from their point of view is not playing particularly well and winning the game, not relying on Mbappe to win the game. You know, they have enough elsewhere. Giroud obviously, listen, you can rely on him for goals. But yeah, real pace in the team as well. Nothing like pace in the team, to worry a back four, make him sit deeper, always have that thought in your head, I can be ripped apart here just by a simple ball over the top. So no, they've been the most impressive team from an exciting point of view at times, I think, but also in the England game when they were very average, but good enough, and played poorly in a World Cup, not poorly, but played ordinary in a World Cup quarter final and won the game. When you were to look at it and you just looked at the outright play and chances, it was England's to win really, and France managed to get through it. Signed a good team, after the world champions, been there and done that, but they're still missing players, missing some good players, and managed to overcome that and just find a way to win a game.
Yeah, and as a striker, obviously looking at what the task Giroud is going to have against that Moroccan defence and just how organised they are, how would you be approaching it in terms of trying and drag defenders out of the way? And obviously, look, he'll have to link up with the likes of Griezmann and Mbappe as well. But in terms of that individual role, it's a thankless task, but I'm sure there's ways of pulling spaces around.
Yeah, I would like France won't be, I don't think, like Portugal and Spain specifically didn't. Everything was in front and sideways. They never stretched them. I think Mbappe should play a little bit more through the centre at times against them, running behind them, force them in behind, like play some ball. You don't have to be good balls, but stretch. The back four for Morocco never got stretched in the two games. Portugal had no one to stretch them. Someone just to, they're so compact. Their midfield are so good at getting back and helping them. That just stretch them, get in behind them, make it awful for them for a while, and then space will open up. I think France will do that, to be fair. And Giroud, he's not going to venture anywhere other than the box anyway. He doesn't go out into the wings. He's not a type to be running channels and doing all that. He stays in the box. So, that side of it, they're different to Portugal. I was doing the Portugal game, and they were getting into wide areas, and every ball was looking for a pullback for a perfect goal, pulling it back for Fernandes, pulling it back for Ronaldo when he came on. They're all on the edge of the box waiting for that, perfect goal, where Giroud won't be like that. He'll be getting across the front man. He'll be trying to get in the back, he'll be trying to win headers in the box, in around the 6-yard box. That's where he does his work. So, it'll be different for Morocco defending against him than it would have been against the Spanish, who wanted to score the perfect goal, and Portugal, to a lesser degree, were trying to score the perfect goal as well. Morocco will, Giroud just will be in there, and it'll be a test for the two centre halves. He's so good in the air. He's such a good goal scorer. But he makes the awful runs. Like he'll get across the front stick, drag a centre half. So then a pullback will be on. If you do that a few times, it opens up play. Portugal didn't do that. Spain didn't do that. Stuff that maybe goes unseen sometimes. But you need a number 9 who will just be a bit awful at times. Like Haaland is from Man City. He doesn't get involved in the build-up play. He's in there, in around the centre halves, making it awful for them. They'll always know he's in there, running across them, getting in their way, blocking them. And balls will be fired into him, and it doesn't have to be him scoring them. But when he's putting them under pressure, centre halves can't get a big clearance. It'll drop to, lads on the edge of the box. Sort of.
Yeah,
and football, but yeah, ways of scoring goals. It's not perfect.
Yeah, and Ed, I suppose Griezmann's going to be key as well. He's been quietly very effective in this tournament, picking up pockets. But as we've seen with the way Morocco tend to defend, the full-backs are, world class between Mazraoui and Hakimi. But it's the role that Ziyech and Boufal play in terms of doubling up that seems to be the thing. So Griezmann's positioning is going to be key here.
Yeah, but look, Kevin's absolutely right. I think it's going to be down to that second ball in the box. Giroud is going to be such a nuisance in there that there's going to be half clearances, dropping balls, squirming balls here and there, and rebounds and ricochets. And the likes, then the bit of quality in the French attack will mop that up. I think I could see France really working Morocco out pretty quickly. I think they'll get ahead in the game early enough, and once they get ahead, Morocco have to play a whole different game. And I think France will be, even when they're at 0-0, I think France are much more adept at dealing with counterattacks as well. They're not going to be caught like that. I don't think. I think they're going to be absolutely fine. I think they'll work out Morocco early enough, and once they get ahead, Morocco will really struggle, I think.
Yeah, although albeit the French have I think conceded 5 in this tournament, no clean sheets, so their defense is a little bit. Obviously, the Tunisia game is a bit of an outlier because it was a second. They played basically their second team in that. But Kevin, I did want to ask you about a couple of players. Sofiane Amrabat for
Yeah,
Morocco has been unbelievable, kind of shades of N'Golo Kante there, and then obviously Roman Saiss, who we've seen a lot of at Wolves.
yeah,
He's now at Besiktas. He might not be fit for this because he
yeah.
went off. He went off the end, but the two of them are absolute warriors.
Oh, Amrabat was just unbelievable. I couldn't believe how good he was in the 2 games I've seen him play. You'd wonder, how he's playing in a mid-table Fiorentina team in Serie A, and he's 26. I think Spurs tried to sign him 2 years ago, and the fee put them off or something like that. But listen, how he hasn't, if he's able to play like that, that'd be my question. Why is he playing like that and doesn't seem to have done that? Oh, he's great. He was so good in the 2 games. Energy, getting around from the first minute to the 120th minute or whatever the game ended up at, and not just winning it back and being so strong in the tackle and recovering, ended up playing like covering for his centre half. But then what he does with the ball, he's able to find a pass, still a dribble by a player, drive out with it. So for me, he's been the midfielder of the tournament so far. And Saiss as well. He was strapping up his hamstring in the Spanish game. I think he's out now. Anyway, there's no chance he's playing. It wasn't a cramp; it was actual hamstring. And then he starts against Portugal and plays really well again. He came off. I think he came off in the Portugal game. He did because he'd ended up with 3 of the back 4 were missing at that stage. But he was able to play that. You feel like he's going to be able to play this game, but just not ideal to be strapping up a hamstring. It's not something that heals overnight. You'd worry about him from that point of view, trying to get through a game, because if you're not 100%, you can get away with some things. You can get away with groin, you can get away with niggles here and there, or a twisted ankle or sore calf. Hamstring is one that won't you just can't get away with. It won't let you play, it won't let you sprint. You can play it, but you won't be at near your capability. So that would be a worry for me if he does start.
Yeah, and I suppose the final point, Ed, the manager, Walid Regragui. I mean, he's his stock was already particularly high because of what he did with Wydad Casablanca during the African Champions League. But he's probably symbolic in a sense of, if you look at a lot of the managers of the African teams, they're all sort of locals or connected to the countries, which is a bit different from what we would have seen in the past.
Yeah. No, he's been really good. He's only 7 games in charge. He didn't qualify them. I can't think of his name now, I'll have it written down, but the previous manager that got them qualified I can't remember. He's had, I think, Korea and someone else. He's qualified 3 teams for World Cups, the previous manager.
And never done the finals tournament.
How is your luck, and he was sacked for fault. He fell out with Ziyech, and he wasn't in the squad, and I think he accused him of faking injury or whatever. But he also he was accused of being too negative and their style of play was too defensive. Well, in fairness, Regragui has got great results, but you can't say he's any different in terms of his style of play. It's very defensive and very solid and just trying to break on teams. But he's got the team are giving him. He's getting the birthday bumps or whatever at the end of the games. You can see a real team spirit. They love him. And it's sort of like he's in a no-lose situation. He comes in, they qualified for a World Cup, and he's riding a wave of that and getting them all together, bringing Ziyech back in. There's obviously a great team spirit there, and they've got fantastic results. And he has, as you said, he has passed. He won the African Champions League. He's obviously a decent coach. So great to see, as you said, a local manager of their team getting real success with them. And I wouldn't write him off. Like, I do think France will win, but I was doing the game against Spain, and fair, we said I think Morocco will beat Spain. I didn't say that against Portugal. I wrote them off before the Portugal game. I thought Portugal have too much for them. Just how they played against Switzerland and Portugal. I think they're so full of confidence they'll have enough for Morocco. So I hate to write them off in this one because I've learned my lesson. But you have to say that France should have too much for them.
Yeah, now I'm not going to do any predictions because usually I'm wrong anyway, and this World Cup even makes me more nervous in terms of doing them. So I'm going to get both of your thoughts just in these semi-finals very quickly. So Ed first, the first semi-final or between Argentina and Croatia, which way are you going?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Argentina. I think they're going to win it. I think they're going to win it in normal time. I think they'll comfortably get ahead. I think Croatia are going to run out of steam. I thought the midfield. Obviously, we saw Modric last the whole game, and he was vital to last the whole game this time because he was needed for the penalty shootout. But I just don't think they can keep going at that. The way they play and their lack of chances that they're creating. I just don't think they've enough. I think, as I said, Argentina have a bit more attacking strengths in the final third, and not just Messi, but around him as well. There's good options. I think they'll win that. The other one, I think France are going to win it comfortably. I know it's horrible to say, considering what Morocco have given us in this World Cup, but I think just they've got this team ethic thing. Just the team, just the way they bring themselves to each game. I just think they know how to win each game almost, and even if they're not playing well, they just get the job done.
Yeah, and Kevin, final word to you. So, which way are you going?
Yeah, I'm with Ed on both of those. I just feel Argentina just sort of that sort of professional way of playing, ugly and still winning games, having a small bit of quality, especially outside of Messi. I really like Alvarez and Martinez then to come on, or whichever one of them starts. They're exciting centre forwards. And the same in the French game. As much as you'd want Morocco to, keep the party going, I just think France will have too much for them. A French team that I enjoy watching as well, and they do seem to have a real team spirit, and they have fantastic individual players. But in fairness to the shop, he has them playing as a team. He has Mbappe working harder than he certainly does at PSG anyway. So it's an Argentina-France final for me.
Yeah, and given how the books have been turned up on this, I look forward to doing a preview of the Croatia-Morocco final in a few days' time. But anyway, Kevin, thanks a million for taking the time.
You might actually get a good third place playoff if it is Morocco-Croatia, because there'll be two teams who will be sort of, would take sort of pride in that third place finish, so silver linings and all that.
Yeah, no, it's similar to the one 20 years ago. Actually, it was pretty good game actually between Turkey and South Korea that time. Actually, if I recall well, I think one of the fastest World Cup goals was scored in that, and ended up being 3-2. But anyway, more than likely though, France against Argentina. But anyway, Kevin Doyle, thanks a million for coming on to the podcast today, and Ed Leahy.
Thanks for having me.